All right, so yesterday I attached this link. Did it work for anybody? I don't know about here at school. I hope so. Maybe. Did anybody check it out? Are you serious? Oh, geez. Anyway, I attached the Google Maps here of the Palace of Versailles. It's a link that you can explore it yourself. So you guys can walk around the palace itself and explore it. And what room is this? What room do we have here? Audrina. Yeah, the Hall of Mirrors. Good job. So again, we talked about it, right? These mirrors even more expensive than gold itself because at the time, right, it's not like the Industrial Revolution just kicked off. It was hard to get artisans to create this type of luxury item. But he had a whole hall of it. Look at the chandeliers. Look at the paintings on the ceiling. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Anyway, so you can see the beauty, you can see the elegance of it. Again, you can explore much of the palace. I'm not going to say all of it, but you can even go outside in the gardens, which we just watched a video on it, and you can kind of explore the gardens outside, which I think is pretty cool. Anyway, please check it out. It's on the video lesson yesterday. It's a link to just Google Maps, or you can just type it in yourself and explore. All right. Hopefully, it's not blocked, like I said. You might have to maybe do it at home, but anyway. I want to make sure I showed you guys that. All right, real quick, I do want to finish up talking about some of the rooms here at Versailles, and then we'll move on. All right, anyway, we did talk about the Hall of Mirrors. Like I mentioned, we will talk about the end of World War One, where the Allied powers will come together and set harsh reparations on Germany here in this hall. Right. So don't forget about it. It's going to come back up here, especially when we get to World War One. All right, the Venus room. All right, so here is the Venus room, which is known as Cupid's room, right? The goddess of love. So, as you can see, with France and Louis the 14th, they wanted to bring a sense of the Renaissance here to France. Right, it makes sense too because many of the popes actually had their leadership here in France. So, with that, France is going to be this new leader when it comes to sophistication, when it comes to dining etiquette, when it comes to dress and wardrobe, when it comes to parties. Right, so France is now going to take that role. Italy, right? They're not falling behind here. They're not, but France is now kind of taking that leading step, right? If you're all the other European countries, you're trying to stay up to date with them, right? When it comes to their culture. So France. Anyway, here's the Venus room. As you know, um, Cupid room, love making. All right, there you go. I don't need to go into that further. All right, the war room. Whoa, look at this. All right, so as you look at the war room here, all right, here's a room just dedicated to France's conflicts, its wars under Louis the 14th. Right here he is riding a horse, looking like he's leading an army into battle. But in all reality, you think he actually stepped foot on the battlefield? No, right? So anyway, you can see the depiction. You can see the ornate designs. You can see the gold embroidered alongside the roof and alongside the walls here within this room. Okay, also the paintings at top on the top of the ceiling here that give a depiction of war and, well, France's success through his time. So with Louis the 14th of France, okay, I know England is the strongest navy, but France is going to have the strongest land military, right? They're going to have the largest population in Europe at this moment, at this time. So you can kind of see the differences when it comes to strength of military, right? Again, England still has the strongest navy, but France, well, they're taking over when it comes to land military. All right, Louis' bedroom. So here's his bedroom. Look how beautiful it is. He actually didn't really sleep in here at all. Not at all. He only would address his nobility here. So as the nobles would come in, they would want to talk to him about certain issues of France. Let's face it, right in the morning when you wake up or before you go to bed, you want to talk to anybody? Do you? No, right? So that's why he set the time for these times. Do you think he really wanted to hear about the issues that the people of France are facing? No, right? He just wanted to live this luxury life. He just wanted to live this life of prosperity and live literally like a king, a divine right ruler chosen by God. So again, the nobility would come in and they would hold a candlelight as he's dressing into his PJs, as he would be, playing different types of games here with his children, even grandchildren. I know that sounds crazy, but on your king, you can have hold the laws, whatever you want to do. All right. Anyway, so as you guys will read about this today with the day in the life of Louis the 14th, you'll see just how he acted, which is kind of strange. Anyway, real quick with this room, this is at the center of the Palace of Versailles. This is right at the center. And throughout the day, the sun would constantly cast its light within a room. All right, and he is the Sun King. So you can see the gold here splash along the walls, and that would shine and glisten throughout the day. So anyway, the Sun King doing whatever he wants to do, right? All right, anyway, we're going to talk about Russia then here today. I want to mention about one of their leaders. I'm going to do it pretty quick so I can give you guys some time to work on your assignment. Anyway, real quick, here is your bell ringer for today. Here it is. All right, so explain the life of Louis XIV. What was his nickname? Why do historians recognize him as the ultimate divine right ruler? And then how did Louis control his nobility? So let's review that before we move on. We talk about some Russian monarchs, divine right rulers. There you go. Look at that. 1114. Louis the 14th. Oh, maybe. Okay, pretty cool. Pretty cool. Bless you. All right, so Louis the 14th known as divine right ruler. What does that mean again? Divine right. Divine right name. Audrina.
He thought that God like chose him to be this ruler.
Yeah, good job, right? So how can you question that then, right? So if you weren't really happy or thrilled with Louis the 14th's lifestyle or his spending, right? The Palace of Versailles was over 200, $300 billion in today's money. Well, you couldn't question him because if you would, you're questioning God. You're questioning religion. And if you did that, well, chances are that means you'd find yourself dead, right? Burned at the stake, beheaded, who knows? So with that, divine right ruler, this is a way for him to control his nobility, control the people, right? So moving forward here, a lot of these monarchs are going to declare themselves as divine right. And this is a way for them to hold on to power, but also boost their ego, right? They actually thought this. They actually thought God has chosen them to lead here in their own country. In this case with France. Chloe, you think you should be coloring? Probably not. All right. Anyway, what else? How else would he control his nobility? Jason? Games. Games, yes, exactly, right? So throughout maybe a week or a month out of the year, he'd invite his nobility over to try to keep them distracted, right? This is a way for him to control them and not to really hear too much about the issues and problems that the French people are actually facing, as he's spending so much money here on this massive palace. So he'd play card games, go out on hunting expeditions. He would have them do these weird things too, like belittle them, right? To dress him, to make him food, and then constantly do these little tasks here to try to make him feel small. So in a way, right, Louis XIV was pretty good at controlling his nobility and holding on to this power and make sure that no one would try to overthrow him. Right? What else? What else would he do? What about the palace itself? Was it right next to Paris? Was it? No, it was about 100 miles away, right? 90, 100 miles away. So this is a way for him to try to keep distance. He didn't want to live with the peasants, let's face it. But at the same time, right, if there was an outcry, if there was a rebellion, well, these people have to walk a far distance to get to him, right? Again, he created this house where his dad's hunting cabin was. All right, what else did he do? Anything else? What else with his nobility? He would send people to keep eye on, right? For these types of people. Jason, spies, right? So to make sure that the nobility weren't plotting against him. Again, the nobility were the only ones that could read, could write, could organize, right? These are the people that are going to start a rebellion, right? Not the peasants that couldn't do this, right? The nobility, they're educated. So he wanted to make sure they kept them on a tight leash, right? He wanted to make sure that he could keep them an arm distance away, spying on them, constantly inviting them over to have these luxury parties, these great festivals at the Palace of Versailles to keep their mind off the actual matters in France. All right, so was he kind of smart? Yeah, kind of, right? But in all reality, he didn't really care about the people whatsoever. He just wanted to live this great, awesome life. Man, oh man. All right, here are your terms for today. Like I said, I'll give you time to work on your assignment here after we're done. Okay. All right, so now we're going to move here to Russia. All right, so Russia. So what is Russia going through during this time? Well, they're trying to catch up, right? So as you move east, right, as you move further east, away from France, away from Great Britain, Italy, you name it, right, the less sophisticated these countries are, less modernized they are. So here's a good map here, looking at it and detailing where Russia is, obviously, way out here in Eastern Europe, right? So a lot of this sophistication, this renaissance, this rebirth is happening pretty darn quick here in Western Europe. But the further you travel out, the less modernized it is. Does that make sense? All right, so Russia has a long ways to catch up. Anyway, here's kind of the start of it. So here's Ivan the Terrible. What? The Terrible? That sounds
Have you
awful.
seen the thing where he's like?
Yes, I have it in the presentation. Don't ruin it. All right, just joking. You can check it out. Good, good. So you know a little bit about it. Good. Oh my gosh, she was. All right, the Oprechnik. Okay, fun name to say. Oprechnik. Tsar and then Boyars. Okay. All right, so Ivan the Terrible, he gets his nickname, well, because he was a terrible leader? No, kinda, but he was more fearsome than anything. So brought a sense of fear to Russia that has never been really seen before. And Russia wasn't just Russia yet either, right? It was divided up amongst the different kingdoms and different types of feudal states. So like I mentioned, Russia, the more east you get in Europe at this time, the less modernized it is, the less out of times they are. Right. The goal is for this country out here, especially Russia, was to try to unite and keep up with the West. Right. We'll talk about it with Peter the Great. Here we'll talk about more tomorrow. His goal is to try to copy and bring in a lot of the nobility from France to Russia so that they can learn, so that they can adapt, so that they can modernize. And with Ivan the Terrible, just note that he is a fearsome leader. And through his authoritarian control, he is uniting Russia. He is bringing a lot of these feudal states together to come together in one whole, in the one country. All right. So this is where we get the ball rolling, right? So did you need a strong leader like that? That's fearsome to get this started? Probably. Considering, well, you have a lot of groups of people that have a different language and culture that never cohabitated before, that were actually constantly at war with one another. So in other words, you bring an iron fist there, you're gonna actually unite these people. You needed that iron fist to unite these people. So again, was it necessary? Maybe. Was it too bloody? Yeah, probably. But he gets the nickname the Terrible because of how harsh he was, because of how fearsome he was. It wasn't actually like he was an awful leader. Right. All right. Anyway, Oprechnik. All right, what do we have to do with Oprechnik? Naomi. Yeah, good job, right? So this is a paramilitary force that Russia had under Ivan the Terrible. So in other words, these are like bodyguards, policemen, right? They would patrol many of these areas that he just united to make sure that they're following his command. If they're not, they're dead. They're killed, right? So we'll talk later down the line, we get to World War II. You think of the SS, the SA, right, with Nazi Germany. This is kind of what we see. Or with Italy, the black shirts, right? This is a paramilitary group that makes sure these other areas that he's uniting, that he's bringing under his order, is following his commands. If they're not, they're brutally killed, right? No questions asked, right? So the Oprechnik, they were brutal, right, when it came to their control over Russia. All right, Czar, what do we have for Czar? Jason, go ahead. Russian king. Yeah, Russian king. Good job. That's all it means. All right, so a Russian king, a Russian leader. Right? So there's going to be a lot of names that we'll talk about throughout the course, right? And one in general here, Czar, comes up quite a bit. All right, we'll also talk when we get to Germany, a Kaiser, right? Not a Kaiser role, but a Kaiser just meaning like an emperor. Like a king. All right, boyars. What do we have? Last one here. Go ahead, Amy.
Russian nobility.
Yeah, Russian nobility. Good job. So the goal here is to make sure that these nobles are following his order and utilize the Oprechnik, his paramilitary group, to make sure that they're abiding by his rule. All right, real quick, let's get to it. All right, so like I said, I'll go through this pretty quick today, so I give you some time to work on your assignment. All right, anyway, as we're looking at Russia, look how big this is. Holy cow. All right, so this spans across two different areas when you think about Europe. Okay, so there's more of a Europe feel when it comes to Russia. A lot of their major cities, as you're looking at the map, are focused closer to Europe. Why is that? Because that's where the modernization is, right? When we talked about the Renaissance, the rebirth, right? A lot of these new ideas, ideologies, sophistication, artwork is happening here in Europe. So that's why a lot of these cities are very close to Europe, because they can bring that influence in, right? And that, again, is the goal here of Ivan the Terrible, and even more when we get to Peter the Great. Anyway, as you can see, it stretches all the way out here to the Pacific Ocean. So when it comes to the landmass, Russia is one of the biggest countries. It is the biggest country in the world when it comes to landmass. One thing to note, though, right out here, the Siberian wasteland, so to speak, there's not much going on, right? Because it's just a frozen tundra, a frozen desert, so to speak. Right? Anyway, there's not much going on out here. So why utilize it? Why have it? I don't know. Maybe you can throw some of these prisoners or people that maybe conflict with a leader's narrative out here to die. Oh, okay. All right. Anyway, Ivan the Terrible. So what did he do? He was famed for creating the Russian state that we know today, uniting a lot of these areas throughout what we know of Russia together. Right. At one point here, especially when the Mongols came in around 1100, 1200, there was a lot of different cultures, a lot of different groups of people. So the goal here was to unite them, bring them together. And the only way you could do that is if you had a strong, fearsome leader. And Ivan the Terrible was that leader, right? When you hear the name Terrible, it's not like he was this incompetent leader. No, he was actually very competent. He was very organized, right? Again, to unite these areas, you had to be strong. You had to be skilled. You had to be fearsome, right? So you had to put fear within your enemies or even your own people in order to achieve these goals. So with Ivan the Terrible, what did he do? He conquered many of the lands all throughout Siberia. And what we know of modern day Moscow, where Moscow is located. At this time, it was called Muscovy, right? So weird name, I get it. But anyway, you can kind of see where that translates to Moscow. All right. Anyway, like I mentioned, he unified modern day Russia, driving out the Mongols, driving out many of these unwanted cultures that would rival his reign, rival his power here in modern day Russia. Again, he was called the Terrible because, well, his brutal penalties. Anybody that opposed him, anybody that questioned him was killed. All right, one thing to note too, which I don't have here as a bullet point, he was also a divine right leader. He believed himself chosen by God to lead here for Russia, to unite these lands here in what we know of modern day Russia. So he was the first czar, right? I know there's different ways to spell it, but he was the first king, first monarch here of Russia that unites it, brings it together. All right, one thing here too is that he was organized. Like I mentioned, he would have the oppression. He would have this paramilitary group forcing his rule all throughout Russia. But also, he did have a code of laws that hasn't been seen in this land since, well, maybe Rome was part of it there for a little bit. Obviously, the Byzantine Empire kind of stretched into modern day Russia. But ever since the collapse of those two empires, Russia was just kind of this free for all, so to speak. And Ivan the Terrible is finally bringing unity and bringing order to this land, to this area. Look at that guy. Jeez. Holy cow, I'd be afraid of him too, wouldn't you? Huh? I would. All right, so anyway, as you look at Russia, this looks unique, all right? This is something, again, that you may have seen before. So this is St. Basil's Cathedral, and this is in a red square in Moscow. Right, you guys ever see this before? I'm sure you have. All right, whenever you think of Russia, a lot of times this building comes to mind. And this was actually built under Ivan the Terrible's reign. Right, as he was conquering lands, he thought, well, we need to try to create somewhat of a capital here for Russia. And they decided to do it here in Moscow. Anyway, the St. Basil's Cathedral, this is a cathedral, but also kind of this symbol for Russia that they can keep up with the other Western European countries. So again, we talked about many of the artwork, the architecture of Western Europe. Remember Gothic and Romanesque? Yeah? Okay, you can kind of see some of the themes here as well. But, right, they're more inclined with these different types of, like a Hershey Kiss in a way, right? These Hershey Kiss donuts. And different colors to try to represent the Russian culture, right? But this is more of a Orthodox, more of a Byzantine structure, a Byzantine architecture. So you're taking in many of the Eastern European themes, the Orthodox Church even, and combining it in with this architecture of even Western Europe. So this is a combination of both, right? That Russia is modernizing, but still holding on to its roots when it comes to this Byzantine premise and history that was a part of Russia for so long. Anyway, I put this picture here of the Oprechnik, right? So this Oprechnik would often wear different types of black capes and even black hats here as they would go place to place and trying to inflict Ivan the Terrible's authority, right? To unite parts of Russia together, right? Again, he had to lead with his iron fist to make sure he could create a country that was representative of, again, his values. A lot of these people had different culture, different languages. The only way to unite them is, unfortunately, through force. All right, anyway, this story comes up quite a bit. And Luna, you talked about it.
Yes.
Go ahead, tell us. What's going on?
Basically, he was like this person that had enough power, and he would basically kill anyone to seem to be an effect of his power. He was not a good father, as you can tell by the photo of him holding his son. I forget what his son's name is, but necessarily he thought that his son was going to overthrow him, leading to him striking his son on the head, as you can tell by the blood, later to regret it and start having a mental breakdown.
All right, so this is happening here in the 1500s. Okay, this painting was created in the 1800s, talking about Ivan the Terrible's rule. Anyway, what happened here is that his son, well, he had a second wife, and his Ivan the Terrible's daughter-in-law was questioning about certain things, but also wearing a dress that seemed to be a little revealing to Ivan the Terrible. right? A little bit of a backstory for Ivan the Terrible. He was going through a lot of psychological conditions, a lot of different mindsets because his wife passed away from poisoning. Oh my gosh. So this was driving him mad, right? So as his wife, Anastasia, was killed by poisoning, he was constantly in fear that he might also see the same fate. So he couldn't trust anybody, literally anybody. And it was driving him mad. So his son comes in, obviously, with his wife, right? And she was pregnant, but obviously revealing a little bit. So he actually pushes and punches and actually even kills his son's wife, pregnant wife. Oh my gosh. And with that being said, obviously his son tried to stop him. And as his son was trying to stop him, he used his cane and boom, right over the head and killed his own son. But also his wife and unborn grandson, daughter, who knows? So talk about a murder spree, right? Jeez. What are they? I don't know. Killing spree in a way, right? She's Call of Duty people. All right. Anyway, so with that being said, Ivan the Terrible, he gets his name for being this fearsome leader, but also being kind of hostile, losing his mind, bipolar. Oh my gosh! Again, I guess with you, if you're ruling over Russia with an iron fist, things like this will definitely happen. So again, that's a famous painting of Ivan the Terrible, his son, after he just killed him. Unbelievable. All right. Anyway, that's it. Sorry to give you guys not much time here to work on your assignments, but have that done for tomorrow. A day in the life of Louis the 14th. It's only 3 questions with a short reading. So have that ready to go for tomorrow. We're going to go over it. So hopefully you guys have it finished up.